for work sessions and stuff. So let's get started here. So good morning, HFC owners, and welcome to the 2020 annual meeting. We appreciate everyone's flexibility in switching to a virtual meeting forum. I'm Brandon Iwasaki, Board of Directors President. I'm joined today by the other members of the HFC Board of Directors, 3 new board candidates, and some of our amazing 564 ownership base. I'm proud of the power of our grassroots organization. HFC owners demonstrate passion, courage, and a willingness to catalyze change in the Oregon food system. I find this opportunity to be a very excited proposition, and I'm thrilled to see others in the community strive for the same thing. Together, we can help make tangible improvements to the social and environmental contract for the Hillsboro community. So first thing, I'd like to introduce the other board candidates. I'm not sure we have everyone today, just with the craziness of it all and potentially some technical issues. I'm not sure that we have everyone, but I'm going to go through and have folks introduce themselves. Allow me to can you unmute Adam? And Adam
I
can
think
go
I'm
first.
Unmuted.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Would you like to go first, Adam?
I joined the board in 2017 because I want to better connect food consumers to the phenomenal local agriculture and food supply we have here in the Tualatin and Willamette Valleys. And I also chair the outreach team, and I'll be updating later on that.
All right, I'll go next. I'm Brandon Iwasaki. I've been on the board for, I think this is going to be my fifth year now. I got interested in the co-op a long time ago when I met Dale at a market. I enjoy cooking and local food systems, and I'm excited to see our business continue to progress. Would Dale like to go next?
Let me unmute him.
Hey everybody, I'm Dale Case. I'm in my 5th year on the board, and as soon as I found out that there was an effort to start a co-op, a food co-op in Hillsboro, I knew it was something I wanted to be part of because I've known for a long time the benefits of a co-op, of a town having a co-op. So this is something I consider to be very much worth my time. That's all.
Okay. Is Henry on the call?
Yes.
Good morning, all.
Hey, Henry.
How are you guys doing?
Good. You want to give us a quick intro?
Yes. Henry Arbisala, one of the board members, and very passionate about food co-op, especially the Hillsboro Food Coop. Good morning to you all.
Okay. And Kimberly, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Culbertson, and I have been active downtown for 20 years, and I'd really like to see a food co-op help.
I think you're really quiet, Kimberly.
Is better?
It's just good enough if you do it that way.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay, I've been an activist downtown for 20 years, and I've seen vast changes in downtown. But the thing that we can do to bring Hillsboro to be the community that it wants to be is to have a good quality grocery store that not only feeds people, but it enriches the neighborhoods around it, and it helps farmers make farming a living wage job.
All right. Sarah, would you like to go?
I'm looking for Sarah to unmute her.
I think she's kind of at the bottom. Here, I got her.
There
Go
we
ahead,
am.
Sarah.
There, I think I'm there now.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. I'm Sarah Noctegal. I've been on the board 2 years. I think this is going on my 3rd year now. Yeah, I got involved after talking to Dale, and his passion kind of sparked my interest in it.
Great. And Toby, would you like to go?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Toby Page. I've been with the co-op board since 2016. I'm the treasurer. I am having a great time watching the co-op just grow. When I first came on, we were under 200 members. And so now to be nearing 600 members, it's just been awesome to watch it grow. I want a co-op so that I can drive downtown and buy food and other items in a place where I know that everything has been thought about before it's been brought into this store, rather than just given to me because it's the best deal they could find from anywhere they found it. So I'm excited to have a local store to be able to support our whole community locally, and also to serve my own home with items that I can feel good about. So thanks.
Okay, and next, so those were the current board members. Next, I'm hoping that the candidates in the election, the new candidates, can also maybe just give a quick intro here too. So we have Jennifer, Molly, and Sean.
So Brandon, Jennifer's having microphone issues. I'll go ahead and just introduce.
Okay, great.
So Jennifer Lundman, and I'm so sorry I don't know you very well yet, but we're excited to have Jennifer joining the board because she comes from a very strong background of health and wellness. Jennifer's a wellness coach and works with Providence hospitals on some community programs, bringing, Jennifer, I hope I'm saying this right, but bringing wellness to greater numbers of people. And Jennifer also told us that she wanted to be a part of the board because she really has a vision for bringing wellness to our community of downtown Hillsboro.
Great. Molly, would you mind going next? Do we need to unmute Molly here?
Unmute Molly. There she is. Oh.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Molly Winslow Hansen, and I've been volunteering with the HFC outreach team since this past July, which is when I moved to Hillsboro. And I'm just super passionate about the whole vision of the co-op, all the potential ways it could positively impact our community. I was on the board of a co-op in the town where I went to college last year, and I really saw just the way that it could bring a community together and increase the social and environmental sustainability in the area, and really support farmers. So I wanted to join the board just to be part of that positive vision and to kind of help catalyze, some energy moving forward, getting us closer to opening day. I know that this has been a long time in the making, so I'm excited to kind of hopefully see us through that final step towards when the store is fully realized and in a building in downtown somewhere with people coming in and just community thriving. So that's why I wanted to join. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. And then can we have Sean go next?
Are you on the mute or am I? I'll unmute him.
Okay.
There you go, Sean, you're unmuted.
Sean, would you like to give us a quick intro?
He's trying. You're having the same audio problem. Shoot.
Not really.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you, Sean.
Can just barely hear you. Maybe if it's loud enough, but maybe one more try.
Okay, I was just going to ask if everyone could hear me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I was I'm a long-term resident of Hillsboro, so I came in about 20 years ago. Live in downtown, and one thing I really do miss is a local grocery store, an all-purpose grocery store. I've been in co-ops in the past, and I really understand the benefit of having a co-op, and I really want a local store as well. So this is something I really feel I want to get involved in and drive to completion. I know we've been the board and this the Hillsboro Co-op has been on for a few years, but I want to help as much as I can and drive it to a reality.
Excellent.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
So those were the prospective candidates. I also wanted to take a moment to thank all of our volunteers. I'm going to start with Karen Smith, who I don't believe is on the call today. At least she wasn't planning on being on the call. It's her son's birthday, and I think they're spending some good family time together. But anyhow, Karen is our first, or the first owner of the co-op and founder of the co-op. And she continues to be a great caretaker and supporter of the co-op, doing a lot of our communications, logistics, planning. The co-op really wouldn't be here without Karen and a lot of the hard work she's put in. Also want to thank Kim Wetzel for organizing community events. Chuck Underwood helps us on our website. Molly, who's one of the prospective candidates, like she mentioned, she's been volunteering with Outreach. She also does a lot of work with Karen on our social media program. So thanks, Molly, for all the hard work you do. Sid Ritchie, Hannah Carlson, and Noella Grady for all their behind the scenes work that they do as well. And here at the beginning of our presentation, I'd like to also just cover the 2020 elections and bylaw amendment results. So all the prospective candidates on the ballots will become HFC board members as a result of the election. This is because we also passed the bylaw amendment to increase the number of positions on the board of directors from 9 to 11. We saw 11 board positions as being in line with other food cooperatives and helping us get more bandwidth to get things done. And we'll make sure to adopt that change to our bylaws on the website. But essentially, we voted for 4 board members, but we're going to be able to bring on all 5 of the people that were on the ballot because of the amendment that was passed. So as a quick kind of segue into the rest of our presentation, start out our meeting today will consist of 3 different sections. First, we'll discuss the 2019-2020 fiscal year for HFC. I'll give you an overview of the startup operations and some of the work that the board's been doing. Karen had a great idea of sending quarterly board updates, so some of those nuggets I know have been distributed throughout the year. Next, Toby will discuss ownership growth and financials, and Adam, who's the chair of the Outreach and Volunteer Committee, will give us some feedback and updates on things that they're doing. And last, I'll provide a 2020 business outlook for us, talking about some of the projects and focus areas the board will be working on this year. And with COVID-19, I think it's important for us to talk about that and what HFC is doing in that context. So Dale will give us some feedback on the market and kind of some opportunities around COVID-19. So 2019 operations and projects. So really just continuing to build on this concept of 4 pillars and 3 stages. That's coming out of the FCI Guide to Starting a Food Cooperative. For those of you that haven't heard of FCI, it's a trade organization, national trade organization that basically helps both startup co-ops and mature operating co-ops deal with different issues and provides a lot of guidance, good information. I included a link in the lower left-hand corner of the slide. If you want to launch that guide, it's a PDF. It's been a really helpful piece of information for us and kind of helping us know what to do next and how to manage the different parts of our operation. So we've really continued to execute on that, and 2019 was no different. As we discussed in our annual meeting last spring, the market study is an important next step for our business. This analysis will provide us with the information that informs our planning and strategy, as well as acting as part of our business plan for lenders. A market study contains an analysis of our likely trade area, size of our customer market, and potential sales. In 2019, we researched various experts in market studies, focusing on vendors specifically with expertise in working with food cooperatives like ours. The board contacted references in Oregon to better understand the quality of work done by these different vendors, as well as comparing costs. And we'll talk more about executing the market study later in the presentation, but that due diligence work really helped us land on the best option. Next, I'll talk about our marketing tactics. The board contracted an outreach and volunteer consultant in 2019. Her name's Katie Novak. She runs a private consulting company. Her experience on the board of directors of the Green Top Grocery Startup, which is an open and operating co-op in Illinois, and her contracted work with other co-ops stood out to us. And Katie has helped improve our marketing tactics and presented new programs to increase ownership growth. Adam will provide more information on these programs when he discusses HFC outreach later in the presentation. One of the programs we launched last year within this new tactic was a promotional strategy that was very effective for boosting ownership recruitment over the summer. With board development, we continue to develop talent on the board in 2019. This talent is one of the 4 pillars of the startup guide. This is a crucial step to a successful outcome for our business. Understanding effective startup strategy and creating a body of knowledge on the board is something that we will continue to pursue and invest in. All of our volunteers on the board come from many different walks of lives, and we've learned a lot on how to build a robust business. Specifically for development in the spring of 2019, HFC provided partial financial support in sending 2 board members to the up-and-coming Startup Food Cooperative Conference in Wisconsin. I went to that conference a few years ago. It's a great conference. You meet a lot of different people and vendors. It's a deeply valuable experience for board members, and we actually had a volunteer, Molly, attend this year. So the 2 board members that went last year, however, brought their knowledge and materials back and provided opportunity for cross-pollination with other members of the board. Second board development opportunity that several directors attended last year was a little closer to home. It was hosted by the Columinate Consulting Cooperative, and the venue was in downtown Portland. Columinate was formerly known as CDS Consultants, if you've heard of them before by that name. This day-long co-op cafe event was instructor facilitated, and it was focused on sharing ideas around creating welcoming environments and strategies for helping our business feel more inclusive to prospective new owners. This event was for other primarily operating cooperatives, but it was great to have that community around. And what was sweeter with both of these events is that we received scholarships and grant money, which reduced our registration and attendance costs by over $600, which relieves the burden on the co-op. So routine operations, although often taken as a given, I wanted to acknowledge our routine operations. Those helping launch our business are donating their time as a volunteer. In 2019, we conducted monthly board meetings, and we also began monthly recurring work sessions, which helps us get stuff done in more of a group format. Also, Toby has done a lot of work in helping us maintain our QuickBooks and working with our accountant on getting our taxes done. Toby, do you want to hop in here?
Oh, I thought that was coming later. So our accountant is a volunteer, and he is an accountant in real life, but offers his time to volunteer for us, make sure that we get filed in time. The co-op currently doesn't pay any taxes, but there's still filing that needs to be done, and just, you know, proper paperwork and things like that. So our accountant does a great job behind the scenes, Jay Williams. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Jay. Our outreach communication team continued their routine operations as well, constantly working on communications for the newsletter and social media. There are just a lot of pieces to keeping our business running even in this startup phase. And so that's it for me on the operations and projects. Next, Toby is going to discuss the 2019 financials and ownership. Let me advance the slide for her. Go ahead, Toby.
Thanks, Brandon. Here, I'll put my camera back on. So in 2019, we did receive a $200 grant from the Food Cooperative Initiative, which helped to give some extra board development funds for our trainings and things. We also got a $300 scholarship to help support our 2 board members that went to the Up and Coming conference in Milwaukee. The donations were primarily gathered at last year's annual meeting because we had that silent auction, and then people also just donated or bought things. We called that donations when they bought things from the auction. And then there were also personal donations. Processing fees, just to understand what that is, those are the flat rate $10 that we charge for folks who get onto a payment plan to fulfill their equity share. So we just charge the $10 because that's close to what we're getting charged on the back end for using credit cards and things through the Merchant Center. Just for awareness, that $447 does not cover completely all of our merchant fees because we don't charge the $10 for folks who pay for their equity share in full. So the processing fees helps cover those. And then the owner equity shares, this is what we gather from those payments in 2019. Okay, so for expenses, our operating expenses, those include all the little things. Some of the bigger items there are our insurance. So we carry liability insurance. We also have insurance for the board of directors. So we have those 2 policies, which helps protect us all. And our communications expenses. So we recently added Zoom to that, but before we do use Google Suite and some other platforms that cost, and then things like QuickBooks cost money too. The outreach dollars were spent, so in 2018, we went through our big rebranding, and then in 2019, we got to purchase items that had our new branding on them. And so one of the bigger purchases was the yard signs. So we've seen that these yard signs are very effective in getting our name out there, getting some recognition. We're going to talk a little bit later about where we're seeing our new members coming from and what are our strongest outreach tools that we have. And the yard signs turn out to be like the third highest way that we get new members. And so that we felt that that was really important and worth spending a good chunk of money on. So we bought new yard signs with our new branding. And then we also engaged in some promotions that Adam's going to talk about a little bit later that were also very effective and we felt were good uses of our money. Professional services, this was to wrap up finishing with the branding, the people that were helping us with that. In early 2019, we finished up with them. Then once we kind of had that in place and we moved on to working with our consultant, Katie Novak, that Brandon mentioned. And you're going to get to hear in a minute about some of the awesome things that happened once we started working with Katie Novak. So then the development, that is our professional development of the board. And so $240 was what was spent for that training for some of the board members. Charitable contributions, this is our annual SNAP match. And so the co-op gives $500 to the SNAP Match program at the farmers market. So I'll just give you a brief overview if you're not familiar with that program. So the SNAP funds is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for low-income families. And when someone is signed up through SNAP, they can take their benefits to the farmers market, and markets that are participating in this program will actually match their funds. And so if someone shows up and they have $5 worth of SNAP funds, because of funds from the co-op and other donations to the market is able to say, well, you can buy $10 worth of things. So that SNAP match is a really awesome program, and I'm so glad that Hillsboro participates. And so that $500 goes to help families to be able to spend twice as much. Okay, and I think that's it for that slide, Brandon.
Hey, I just wanted to make one quick note, and I typed this into our group chat, but if anyone has questions, I think the way we're going to handle questions is just go ahead and type them into the chat, and then we'll collate all of them and answer them all at the end of the presentation.
Thanks. Yeah, we forgot to say that. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah.
Okay, so membership growth. This was a really nice chart that kind of shows our progression over time since inception. And, you know, when I take a first glance at this, it looks like, wow, we are just progressively moving up, up, up. So I kind of crunched the numbers, and in 2017, we crossed that 300 member milestone, which was really exciting. And I think you can see the excitement that it caused. When we hit that mark, there was just a lot of people that wanted to join us in that. We did see the growth rate taper off a bit at the end of 2017. Through 2018, things went pretty well, and we gained 80 new members in 2018. In 2019, we almost doubled that for 136 new member owners. And we achieved that 500 milestone, which again, I think just really creates a lot of excitement. I think when people see that their neighbors are on board with this, and that when we all band together, we could really make this thing happen. You can see that that trajectory just really shot up because of that excitement. And so heading into 2020, we hope to just keep that climbing. And Adam's going to talk about some ways we're going to get there. So I think that's all that I had for this slide. Thanks. Oh, do I need to unmute Adam? Adam is unmuted.
He got muted again.
I will unmute him.
There we go.
Sorry, Adam.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, nice. Well, you know, we're working on these transitions. So hi, everybody. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about outreach, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about financing. So The outreach team, you can see in the picture here, we are small, but we are strong. Like and you can't see Karen, she took the picture, but that's Dale there and I, and then Kim Wetzel and Molly who's on, and then Karen who's not here, but kind of 5 core team members. And then we have some honorary team members who help in the background as well. And I saw Sid, I think Sydney's on the call here too. So thanks to everybody on the outreach team. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished this year. So here's our charter or vision at the top is the outreach team communicates the vision and the mission and the values and also the progress of the co-op to the community. So, that's about growing our credibility as a business with the community and also growing ownership. So a lot of it is communication, but there just seems to be so much involved in that. So we plan and host events. We manage owner recruitment. We manage volunteer recruitment and management, business outreach, social media, and the market booth and tabling. And there's more. Like I kept making the list smaller for the presentation. Like for example, one more thing is yard signs. Yes, we make sure the yard signs get out in the neighborhood, and that's still, like Toby said, one of the top ways people learn about the co-op. So I'm going to talk about promotions on the next slide, please. So I'm waiting for the next slide to show up. Thank you. So in 2019, we completed 5 promotions on the outreach team. I'm just highlighting 3 here on this slide. You might recognize these images, the 15 owners in 15 days, and then the peak of the season, and then the fall harvest. During the times that we had active promotions, during the year of 2019, we acquired 89 of the 136 owners. So that's 65%. So these promotions are really important. So we used to do longer running promotions. Like as an example, at the beginning of the year, we had a promotion that ran for 3 months and it worked well. We got 29 members, but like if you think about the metric for it, it's 0.3 owners per day. And now with this newer model, we've reached as high as 2.2 owners per day. So you can see in the chart there, the little blue boxes, if you can see them, I know some of you are on iPhones and stuff, but the boxes show the duration of the promotion, and the chart is of our Hillsboro Co-op website traffic. And it's just nice to see a super direct and clear correlation of our promotions with the website traffic, just as evidence that these are working. And of course, we have the evidence of getting new owners. But so promotions get us new owners, and they also are a really big part of getting the message of the co-op out to specifically new audiences, because we'll use targeted paid ads during a promotion and direct those at targeted audiences. So there's a substantial amount of work that's involved with the promotions. And so I just want to, kind of identify as a kind of a business system improvement. We looked at this as an area. We got consulting help from Katie, and we've been able to make the promotions more effective. And it took a lot of effort, but also by repeating them and having a repeatable process, we've made it more efficient to do them. And so we'll be able to continue doing these during the year. On the next slide is events. So the outreach team is always interested in coordinating and hosting events, small events and large events. We're only really limited by capacity, and by that I mean volunteer capacity. So we've been able to keep, I think, pretty good activity on the small events, but with more help, we could definitely do larger events. So for example, there are, dinner event formats that other co-ops have used to raise like substantial number of owners in a single night. So those are things we'd like to do, but still here you see we had some blueberry picking and some wine tasting, and hopefully maybe a couple of you were there. I don't know, we had fun. So on the next slide, I just want to call out a particular great event that I thought it was really inspiring. Oh, here's my prop. This was a book talk by the author John Steinman. He wrote a book called Grocery Story. I was totally re-inspired after hearing this, and who knew somebody wrote a book about grocery stores and co-ops, right? Like an entire textbook. So if you missed this and you want to learn more, we've got a few books that we bought personally that we're happy to loan out. So just contact us about that. Or you can reach out to me directly. So looking forward a little bit for what's outreach doing for 2020. The outreach team did strategic planning at the beginning of the year and made sure our goals were aligned with the board. We do a monthly report to the board. We track our progress against our agreed goals with measures. So I just have like 2 little snips here out of our report to the board that shows each month how we report progress against the goals. Our 2 main focus areas this year are continued owner growth. We want to maintain that owner growth or improve it if we can. And we want to energize the volunteer base. We've got, specific targets for both of these, and we work on this every month. So in addition to that, we're also, well, as part of energizing the volunteer base, we've really taken on work to mature and evolve the volunteer management program. Hopefully some of you have noticed some of the sort of becoming normal communications about that, trying to just reiterate with people in a couple of different ways what the opportunities are. And we've engaged with a more formal process on putting volunteer job descriptions together with the board. In fact, and we measure those. I didn't show that here. So we're working on that because that's, getting the volunteer base engaged is just critical to our success in the future. Finally, I want to end with some really great news. Is just, the big green arrow to the right there says outreach and volunteer coordinator. So the board has approved us to hire a part-time outreach and volunteer coordinator. And we are extremely excited about this because that small outreach team you saw in the picture is working super hard, and having somebody paid who can put in, a dedicated number of hours per week is going to make a huge difference. So that's an approved thing and is now like needing to put some details together, and we'll start recruiting for that as soon as we can. So that's outreach. I'm going to kind of switch gears now. And so that was me as outreach chair. And now this is me just saying, hey, did you notice Astoria opened a wonderful new store? And I'm going to talk about their financing, or actually just financing in general, to just inform and share about this. So it's really exciting. They had a grand opening in January. If you haven't seen it, you definitely want to visit. Astoria has a population of about 10,000. That's roughly 1/10 of the size of Hillsboro. The Astoria Co-op was an existing co-op. They had a very small co-op for a while. I'm actually not sure how long. And they had that part of their strategy was to expand. And so as part of the expansion, they did a member owner campaign. And depending on what kind of device you're looking at, you may or may not see on this website snip of theirs, which I just did by Googling Astoria Co-op capital campaign. They were able to surpass their $1.5 million goal of member owner investments that they raised in their community. So on the next slide, you'll see a map of co-ops in the United States. And then on the, just, hey, we're in good company. So down the street in Astoria, we have a co-op making a substantial capital investment from their community into a local co-op on the next, and we can move to the next slide too. So the point of that is to try and show, well, I wanted to just make sure people understand kind of from a financial point of view, here are 3 case studies that come from the FCI guide for 3 different co-ops, and you can see their project sizes were 1.6 million, 1.8 million, and 1.9 million. So, that gives you an idea of the size of a investment for the store. And then when you look at the sources of money, sometimes people are just wondering, how does the financing work? And you can see there's really 3 sources of funding, 3 major sources. The member equity, which is what each of you owners put in with the $200. And then member loans, or sometimes those are preferred shares. And that's not super important, but the key is that it's either loans or investments from owners. And then it's bank or other financing. And the bank or other financing is typically contingent on the co-op having successfully completed a capital campaign with our community as a show of support for the business. So that's just kind of tying together these different sources of funding. And then on the next slide, just a couple highlights of why do we do this? Like why do we raise money from owners? So first, it's a co-op. It's co-op principle number 3 is owner economic participation. But from just a pure, pros and cons or benefits point of view, it's, we get a lower interest rate on money that we borrow from owners than we probably would from conventional lenders. That turns out to be something good for the co-op and something good for the owners. And of course, it's great for the local economy because the interest on those loans is going to the owners. And it's a competitive advantage that co-ops have that other stores don't. Like, other grocery stores in the community can't really go direct to the community for some of their investment. And then the key one on the end there is it's part of demonstrating to institutional lenders that we have the community backing and the support to open the store. So yeah, I just wanted to share that so that we're like beginning to talk about capital campaign and financing, because that's something that, as Brandon and others talk about the business development, that's something that's coming in the future. And I hope by sharing this might make people think of questions or discussions that you want to have about this. And of course, when we get there, we're going to need people helping organize this type of work. That's it for me on this section. So thanks.
Thanks, Adam. It's a good amount of detail. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 2020 outlook for our business. So I mentioned the market study before. We're going to continue to figure out the market study. We've contracted a vendor, and the vendor is currently working on the research phase of the market study. We've provided the vendor some information, basically like a Q&A that she sends out to all of her clients. The bigger question for us with the market study is the field visit that the vendor would conduct. We're going to have to kind of wait and see on what that looks like as far as reopening and removing some of the sheltering and other safety concerns. So kind of TBD on that particular piece. The next one that we're looking at this year is a CRM. One of the major items that we need to support cooperative systems and kind of who we're working with in the community, who our volunteers are, is having a good CRM. The current strategy for managing owners is done using our G Suite, specifically Google Sheets. It's just not really that practical of a tool, especially as the number of owners gets bigger. The ways that we're working with people has become more complex. We understand that Sheets isn't ideal, and we have begun investigating other solutions. Major obstacles for a CRM at this point of maturity for our business is both cost and just having the knowledge on how to use a CRM. We're hoping to find a low-cost solution with added features. Google Suite or G Suite may be an option to use. The way we're not using it is effective, but we've heard that there may be other systems that have been developed by other co-ops that we could potentially adopt and use here with HFC. If there's any volunteers that are interested in CRM and kind of navigating some of that, I'd be really interested in working with someone. Just send an email to our info@ email address or contact me. The volunteer and outreach coordinator is an important position, like Adam mentioned, and we're excited to do some more work on that front. I think, again, some of the COVID impacts here may kind of delay or slow down our progress with the volunteer and outreach coordinator, but we're excited to start working with that person. And I'm going to have Dale talk a little bit more about COVID impacts and opportunities from his perspective. So you want to go ahead, Dale?
Sure. First, I hate to have to even bring up the subject of COVID-19, but since it's impacted us all so much, it's pretty hard to avoid. The biggest impact for me personally is, well, for all of us, involves the market, because as you may or may not know, the downtown Hillsboro market for the current time is a drive-through market. There's no physical place for us there because there's no pedestrian traffic at that market. So for now, the best that they can do for us is to display our banner, and there's brochures on the market booth, the farmers market booth. And one thing I wanted to say about the snap match too is the snap match is what pays for us to be represented at the market. We're not a vendor, so that being a sponsor is really our only avenue into the market. And then there's the Orenco market, which is a pedestrian market, but they have all the booths double spaced right now. So they're full with no place for us for the time being, but they're going to review the markets on a month-to-month basis and change things more back to the way they were as possible. So anyway, so the market has been one of our best outreach tools. It's number 2, I think, on the graph that shows how we connect with people. So since we don't have that avenue right now, we need to look at other ways that we can get our message out. And I do mean we. I don't mean just us as a board and our few volunteers. We need all of us to be involved in this. And there are some ways that all of us can help. And one of them is participating in our social media program. It's a simple thing. We have a lot of posts on Facebook, and it's a really simple thing for people to like our posts and to share them, because it spreads the message to other people that we wouldn't necessarily have direct access to. People on your friends list see your post, and if you can get them to share a post, even better. Let's see, I lost my place in my notes here. Yeah, so like and share on Facebook. Another thing is referrals. And by referrals, it's from the market, but it's also people talking to people about the co-op. I don't know if you remember, but on our membership applications, there's a question on there about how did you hear about the market, and those have been very, very helpful. And then there's something that we launched several years ago that has helped a lot, but could help a whole lot more if people got really serious about it, is our HFC +1 program, which means if you can find one person to convince to join, I mean, you think about how many owners we have, and if a large number of them found one person to join, a large number of you found one person to join, our numbers would go up really quickly. And let's see, what else do I have here? So we really all want the same thing out of this. We want our own grocery store. We want to help the local economy. We want to help the local food system. And if anything is shown, to me at least, is shown how much we need to strengthen our local food system. COVID-19, you go grocery shopping, it's not hard to see the hit that the food supply has taken, and some aspects of that are still developing, and not in a good way. So yeah, the co-ops are all about strengthening the food system, strengthening the local economy. And to me, that means resilience and sustainability. So please, we all need to get this done together. And I am done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dale.
You're welcome.
All right. Toby, are you here? Looks like you're muted.
I am here though, yes.
Did you want to mention the business directory at all?
Oh, sure. So this is more of an outreach program. Adam might be able to speak more to it, but I'll try. So the business directory is an addition to our website that we added a page to the website that will allow for HFC member owners who are also small business owners to be part of the directory. So this directory is going to serve several purposes. One being that we feel that if we can start to bring together our local purveyors, then that can just help to strengthen the food system even before we get our store up and running. This is also a way to advertise your business, your local business, and to create some excitement around being on the website and kind of starting to bring everybody together before the store is actually open. You have to be a member owner to be part of the directory. And so this has also been another outreach tool to gain new members out of the local small business owners. So Adam, did you want to add anything to that?
Not really. I mean, I think you covered it well. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and just kind of wanted to acknowledge the photo that we have on this slide as we wrap up. This is Dale working the market that he's done for many years. Really want to thank Dale for the amount of time that he's invested setting up, training other people at the market, interacting with folks at the market, breaking down. It's countless hours week over week. And also in this photo worth pointing out is the new lawn signs, yard signs, and the new market banners that were part of our rebranding process. So we did get a few questions. I'm gonna stop sharing here and we can move on to Q&A.
Hey, Brandon, do you think we could do our photo right now before we start losing anybody?
I think we got the photo.
Oh, we already did. Okay.
Yeah. So during the RSVP, we also provided the opportunity for people to submit questions. So I'm going to go through those first, and then we've also compiled some of the thoughts, questions that were typed into the chat. So the first one, and I don't have exactly who submitted these beforehand, so I apologize, but and another note about the Q&A is we're going to compile this into like a Q&A document and send it out afterward. So the first question is, does HFC have a potential location for the store? I think we have some ideas and wishes, but we don't have an actual location nailed down. We're still assessing the characteristics and optimal location for the store. The market study will provide much needed insight on the characteristics of that potential location. And once we have more information, we're also going to have a siting committee that works more closely on this. That would be a siting committee that interacts with like a commercial real estate broker and is really focused on trying to find a specific location for our business. Next question, does the board coordinate with the city of Hillsboro? Yes, we've met with the economic development group at the city a while back. We also have Kimberly who interacts with people that are currently working in the city. I know EJ kind of keeps her ear to the ground on some of that as well. We'd love to have a volunteer that helps us kind of create and foster a good relationship with the city. I know it's something our board's focused on as well. But from what we've learned from other cooperatives, local government is an important resource for helping get businesses like ours off the ground. So it's definitely something we will continue to invest in. The next question is, where is HFC on the roadmap? A couple things to answer this question. We're continuing our business operations, as I mentioned earlier, executing the market study, and continuing to build our ownership base. So on the roadmap, we're just kind of in the middle of it, in the thick of it. And the next question was, what's the status of the market study? I talked about that. Market study is underway. We're working with the vendor right now. I think there is a question later on about who's the vendor. So we're working with G2G Research. The consultant's name is Debbie. She has a lot of experience, and that's why we selected her. A lot of experience and is pretty well known. There were a few other vendors. They didn't necessarily have the depth and experience. And I think Debbie also had the most experience working with organ co-ops, which we felt was valuable as well. The next question was about the status of the feasibility study. We've created a preliminary sources and uses analysis. We're really relying on the existing market study that the city of Hillsboro did, which suggested a co-op as kind of the foundation for our feasibility. And the market study will help give us more information about feasibility, and then that sources and uses document will help us kind of put some of those numbers together for the actual financial feasibility. We still have more information and refinement to do on a feasibility, but we're feeling very confident at this point that a cooperative business is feasible in Hillsboro. If there are volunteers, another plug for volunteers here on helping us build out that feasibility study, we'd love to have people help, especially if you have experience working with a business plan and feasibility study. The next question was, when will we hire staff? We will hire staff once we've selected a location, and our first hire will be a general manager. The general manager is a very important role for us to hire. It really will kind of pave the way for actually getting the store finalized and understanding what we stock on our shelves and just some of that preliminary stuff as we hire other staff for the co-op. The general manager will be involved with all of that. So again, that's going to be our first hire, and we will be hiring that person once we have a location, once we start thinking about building the store. Next question is, who manages social media presence and strategy? As I mentioned earlier, Karen and Molly both help with our social media strategy. From coming up with our messages to posting them on Facebook and distributing the newsletter, it's very important, as others have mentioned, as part of our ownership development process. So thanks, Karen and Molly, for doing all you do with social media. Another question was submitted on a detailed timeline to opening. It's really hard for us to provide a detailed timeline. As Toby showed earlier, the number of owners we get year to year just varies, but we have a timeline that's more based on ownership numbers, and we've been following that. I'd really suggest people check out the guide to starting a food co-op that lays out some of the ownership targets, milestones more clearly. The next question submitted was, will there be food collection and donation of leftover produce? We've talked about this. We all think it's a really great idea. We have a former director, Heather, who's just a regular owner now, but she's really interested and has driven some of the conversation around packaging, sustainability, reusing food, either by having that as prepared food or donating some of those leftovers. And I think that's going to be a focus for us when we get the store open. It's something that will get communicated to the general manager. But at this point, we don't necessarily have all those details nailed down. It's something that we hope to engage the ownership base on as we kind of move down the path of opening the store. And then the last submitted question was, will HFC carry bulk items and owner discounts on bulk essentials? Bulk is something that I think, again, everyone on the board is excited for, but we don't have the specific details on what that exactly looks like. Other co-ops have been able to offer discounts for essential pantry items. It's something that we will definitely explore, but again, something that's going to be driven by our ownership. So those were all the submitted questions as a part of the RSVP. I'm going to go on to the chat submitted questions here today. So EJ, and I guess just another thing before we go through these, I can answer them, and then if people have a follow-up question to the response, I would ask that you use the raise hand feature that's in the participant tab, and then we can unmute your mic and you can just kind of have an open conversation about any sort of follow-ups. So the question from EJ was, how many people voted? I pulled that up during the meeting. It looks like we got 101 responses on the voting.
Yeah.
How does that compare with previous years? I think it's a lot more than previous years, which kind of...
It's almost triple.
Triple?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
So
do you want to talk about that?
Your end of your question was, should we do that again? Like, should we move to an online voting, which I like, I think we should consider that because it worked well.
I agree.
Yeah.
I remember one year when we did voting, all we had was crayons to mark out the ballots with. So it's really great to have, some of these new online tools to facilitate easy and easy voting and give us more participation from the ownership base. I think that's important. So like Google Form, which we used for the voting this year, is a great tool, and it's just keep your eyes out for future voting and ways to engage via Google Form. Does that answer your question, EJ? Okay, I see you nodding. Next question was from Mary. Her question or comment was, I guess, great to hear the success with Katie. And then the question was, how do we leverage what she did and what we learned to be able to catalyze member growth going forward? Thank you, and a nice smiley face in there.
Cool.
Adam, do you want to maybe take this one?
Sure, yeah. So thinking about that, I mean, we specifically engaged with Katie on the stuff that I talked about, but now we also have engaged with her for just barely an hour and a half or something to help us get the hiring plan and stuff in place for our outreach coordinator. Once we hire that person, we also have plans to use her expertise to help coach that person, because Katie's been a successful outreach manager. And so yes, we will continue to be able to leverage her expertise or other experts that we find. So yeah, and I don't know if that answers your question, Mary, or not, or if there's more. I see you're muted. I saw you maybe were out walking earlier.
Yeah, it looked like Mary was on a nice walk.
Or a bike ride?
On the background on her phone. If you have anything else, Mary, do you want to use the raised hand function or just type in chat? So I'm not seeing anything. I'll move on to the next one, but we
Okay.
can circle back if you have anything else, Mary. EJ's posed a question about who did we hire for the market study. Like I mentioned, G2G with Debbie. Excited to work with her at some point here in the future. Do you have anything else on that, EJ? Okay. Question from Sid. Dale, is there a possibility of having a small flyer, not the brochure, added to packaging when someone buys something at the market? So interested volunteers could pass them out. It looks like Dale's unmuted. Do you want to talk about this, Dale?
I don't know that I really have an answer to that. What do you mean from for other vendors to hand out with a purchase? That would be a question I would probably have to ask the market manager. And yeah, it would be a question for the market manager.
It's a great idea. I mean, we can definitely take that question to the outreach team, and yeah, Dale, I like the idea of, we'll follow up on that.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess to add about a small flyer, that's something that we've been working on recently as well. We received a grant from the Tualatin Valley Soil and Water Conservation District, TWIG grant, and I can't remember exactly what TWIG stands for, but it's basically a smaller grant. I think the amount was $750. Do you? I think that's good enough for the TWIG grant. But anyhow, we're developing a little outreach flyer has a nexus with conservation that might be useful for us to hand out at the market, per your suggestion, Sid. So thanks for that one. Did that answer your question, Sid? I'm not.
Sid might not be on anymore.
Yeah, I don't see her on the participant list.
Okay.
Next question from Rita Barton. Is there an update on potential locations once we launch? Is Block 67 an option? Any change in their interest in including us there? So that's a pretty loaded question. As far as Block 67 goes, potential locations, I think I mentioned that with one of the submitted questions, but we don't have a location as of yet. We're hoping to get some more guidance via the market study. The market study is really focused on finding potential locations, again, based on just kind of different trends and analysis that the vendor would conduct. Some of the original conversation has been that we'll be within about a mile of the Civic Center. We're hoping to keep to that. But again, we're going to really rely on what the market study tells us. As far as Block 67 goes, our understanding is that the Block 67 development projects kind of at a bit of a reset right now. The existing developer that they were working with is no longer contracted, and so there is in the city of Hillsboro, I think, is still trying to answer some of those questions. It is a site that we would consider and a site that we have highlighted as part of our market study and research for Debbie to do. Rita, do you have any other follow-up on that?
I can just add, if I can add in, just,
yep.
You know, we're hyper aware of Block 67, but because we have to keep confidential any discussions about site specifics, we don't broadcast in a way that we communicate other things, anything that we're doing on site selection. But then if you're aware, the Block 67 was cruising along with the developer with the plan and all the pieces and parts, and here's, you know, they had retail square footage identified and so on. But like Brandon said, with the reset on that between the city and the developer, that basically still keeps that as a potential, and we're super aware of keeping our eye on that and tracking what's happening there.
Thanks, Adam. I think that's a really good point about being confidential, and it's something that has been given to us as a piece of advice by FCI and others just with real estate dealings. So know that we're thinking about it, but you may not necessarily get a lot of information broadcast about it. So question from EJ, have you selected a broker? Kara Krusman is a member and interested in volunteering her time. Will you be filling the VP position? Wow, EJ, you really love asking a lot of fun questions.
A bunch of great questions.
Make me go, oh boy. So with the broker, one of our previous directors, Paul, had started engaging some of the regional commercial real estate brokers. So we met with a couple of them, but didn't really find a good fit. It's something that's kind of on our radar, and I was hoping to queue that up with the site selection committee. I would love to get Kira's contact information and see, what sort of ideas she has, and if she has any connections with a real estate broker. Anything else? Any other thoughts with that, EJ? Do you want to raise here? I'll just unmute you since that's kind of where we're at here. I think you have to unmute yourself too.
She is a real estate broker, and she lives almost in downtown. She lives off Jackson School Road, but she's really interested. And I think that Paul might have talked to her, but she has connections, and she'd like to volunteer her time, and she can connect to other people. So I would have her start that committee.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a great idea.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you. And you can just send that to me wherever or Slack. So the second part of your question was about filling the VP position, and I think that's something that we will be looking at. I know once we onboard the new directors that were elected today, we're going to kind of get some of them in the mix and then figure out how to reshuffle some of the board positions. We've had the same president, secretary, and treasurer positions for the past year, a little over a year.
Or way more.
Or way more. And I think it's maybe time for us to do a little reshuffling to give other people opportunities and experiences on the board. So I would like to refill the VP position. I think it's important to have. Do you have any other thoughts on that, EJ? I'm thinking that's probably a no. So a chat conversation, Tim provided some thoughts on a CRM, mentioning that there are open source and free CRMs, although we would likely still be hosting, or there would likely still be hosting costs associated with this CRM. And I didn't mention this earlier, but CRM is basically an acronym for client or customer relationship management software, essentially a way for us to understand who we've contacted and the community, who our owners are, and basically a way for us to manage and understand what sort of messages we've sent out to different groups of people. So his Google search found civiccrm.org. That's one that we hadn't looked at. We've looked at a couple other options. Most notably, Zoho was something we were kind of looking at going with because it was free at a kind of a basic pricing level or basic offering level. A couple of things that we really want to have with the CRM is the ability to interact with MailChimp, and just the ability to dump our existing ownership database that's a Google sheet into it's kind of like a first migration step and to populate our customer base, but we'll take a look at that. And then Tim's second question was about getting yard signs. And so Dale, can you help us understand where we're at with the yard signs?
I have yard signs. I'm not sure where we are with the survey. There's a survey that goes out periodically to get the new members involved to find out who wants a yard sign, who can have a yard sign, and then they go in a spreadsheet, and then I deliver yard signs. So it's that simple.
So can Tim or anyone looking for a yard sign just email
We can
us?
just email
Absolutely.
info@hillsborofood.coop, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. If you're ready to put one out, just contact us directly and we'll make sure we get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's great value in the yard signs.
From Tim.
I think there's great value in the yard signs. If you have a place to put them, I think that our cost on those is around $10 a sign.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. So just
so not for the backyard, only the front yard.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. So was there another question here from Sid?
Do we want to open to just anybody who has a question now, or raise hand, or
yeah?
Yep.
If there's anyone who wants to.
Brennan, can you describe how to raise your hand in case people don't know?
How about can we just unmute everybody at this point? It's such a small group.
Okay.
Or is that that might be taking a huge risk if things fall apart? This might be the end of the meeting.
I'm unmuted, everyone.
Again.
Okay, great. Yeah, so does anybody have a question live right now? Got one more message in the chat.
Okay, Adam.
Rita said, thanks, that's it. All right. Cool.
Yeah, you answered my questions. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Is there a way we can buy what? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is there a way we can buy one of those cool t-shirts?
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah, that
we
one.
Need to get the merch program going. That's a whole program we've almost barely spun up.
Yeah, I think we have a website that we were using previously, but we just need to update the logo. So if that's something you're interested in, I would email the info and we can set you up with the website to order different merchandise like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? It's great to see everyone. Oh, go ahead.
I have just a few thoughts real quick. First of all, shout out to all of you board members for the
Can we mute everybody and let Mary talk? I can't.
Yeah, probably have to. You're
everyone.
Yeah, let's.
Mary, I'll unmute
everybody.
To everyone who's there today, and especially to the board members, what a great presentation. And a few things that just came to mind as you were all presenting. Sorry, I ran out of battery, so don't have fingers to type or whatever. But I just wanted to say thanks so much for the encouraging Astoria heads up. That's awesome to hear about their HFs or their cooperative there. And is it possible that we can, maybe the article or whatever has the details, but is it possible to meet with some of those board members to understand a little bit better maybe some of their successes or failures that we might be able to learn from, especially as they have been right now in this season, especially opening up just now. I don't know, maybe something is there. So that's one thing. Second thing is, thanks so much for the Hillsboro Market drive-through, the fact that signs are there. One of the things that I've noticed during this COVID-19 period is the creativity, especially like schools and churches that have done various drive-through items. And the drive-through the drive-throughs that I've seen that have been so successful have been simply people like sitting on trucks or sitting there with, whether they're dressed up or have a sign in their hand that said, "We love you, we appreciate you, we want you to be a part of this," or whatever. I don't know if we have volunteers that have time, or there's a truck that's available, or we could have a spot, but that personal touch to it. I recently participated in one last weekend, and oh my gosh, it pulled on all of my heartstrings, and I'm like, okay, I want to be a part of that. And so I just thought, yeah, that might be something to consider. Then one other thing, I have loved the +1 thought of the owners. And with 2021 coming up, and the fact that we're more than 500 now, would it be possible to think about something like kind of relaunching that +1, where all of us are challenged to say, once again, can we really go after for 2021? Who can we invite? And maybe there's a fun incentive to go with it, because if we even got half of us to do that, wow, we would make a huge change. But yeah, might take some effort. Anyway, thank you all for everything you do. I so appreciate it. That's it.
Thanks, Mary. Those are a bunch of great ideas. Yeah. And I'll say a quick note about the Astoria board and like, can we meet with them and stuff? The board chair there, Matt, we've done some emails, and he's been really responsive and shared, for example, some of the details about their capital campaign. So that's super helpful to us. We're also in contact with the Silverton board, which is a startup. So yes to that, but it's kind of, to a degree, the amount of collaboration we do with them has to do with how much time we have. And
exactly.
With a larger board coming on right now, I mean, we have the more opportunities there. So yeah, and your other ideas are great, and hopefully we get a chance to act on those.
Thanks,
Definitely,
Mary.
the +1 is something always on our minds. Like when we get to the final, hey, we have a site. Hey, we've got to get the capital campaign going. Hey, we've got to do the final push.
Yes.
You can imagine then if 500 people went out and got one more owner, we're done. So.
Oh my gosh, yes, fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. I see Tom has his hand raised, so
great.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute him. Or I keep saying Tom and I mean Tim. I unmuted you, Tim. If you want to, I think you have to unmute yourself on your end.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. I just wanted to do a shout out for, Karen, for the Azure Standard drop that, Karen made available, right? So it was just so cool. With COVID-19 and everything being shut up at home and the stores having nothing, I couldn't find any whole wheat flour or anything like that. And it was a totally unrelated friend pointed me to Azure Standard, and then I went and looked, and lo and behold, it was an HFC drop, right? And I just felt so proud at that moment. So
that's cool.
I just think that was just awesome. That's a great service, because it makes you feel like, hey, there is food involved in this food co-op, right? It's not just us trying to get going. So
thanks for that.
Thanks. That's great.
All right. Anybody else? Can unmute everyone again.
Is Dale raising his hand?
Finger in the air. Yeah, I wanted to say one thing about the yard signs. At my years at the market, the yard signs has been the #1 thing that brought people to the booth. So many people came and said, I see these signs everywhere. What is this about now? How much more value could you put on something as far as directing people to us? So there you go.
Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, and I actually found out from going to Ombacht and having the flyer there, right? So that was one of the earlier campaigns, right? So he just happened to have the flyers there. I looked at it and became an owner, at that time.
Oh my gosh, the brochures work. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that definitely worked, at least for me. But the yard signs, every time I see them, I think I really should have done that already, and I haven't. So I'll take care of that.
Oh, great.
Thank you all.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for attending this. If you're interested in volunteering again, just reach out to us, info at.
Sorry, Brandon. I was when everyone's unmuted, there's so much noise and it just I couldn't hear anything. So sorry about that.
No worries. It's just closing things up. So it's great to see everyone. I hope everyone's staying safe, doing well. We've used Azure too, Tim, and it, same experience. Couldn't find flour anywhere, but was able to pick up flour yesterday from our drop in Beaverton. But definitely something to check out if you haven't checked it out already. And yeah, here's to a great rest of 2020. If there's anybody else that wants to comment, last chance. Adam.
Just thanks for being owners, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. I think we're good. Have a great day. Enjoy the last sunny day.
Oh, and this is recorded, so it'll be up at some point.
Okay. Bye.
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 Should we stop the recording?